Hello everybody, and welcome to SDVoE Live. I'm your host, Justin Kennington, and this is TV for Pro AV. We have a very special show for you today. Another great guest. This one, an old friend of mine, the kind of buddy that I would get to hang out with at every trade show that we would go to. But, well, I haven't been to a trade show in over a year now. So Chris Neto and I have not had a chance to hang out until today. I'd been watching the social media, the Twitter sphere, the LinkedIn verse, and noticed that something Chris and his colleague Craig had been working on called The Lost Art of AV was all about short form videos explaining very specific concepts of Pro AV education. And I thought, that's exactly what we do here in the SDVoE Academy. There's got to be, some common interest here, something we can do together. So I invited Chris to come on the show today, and our topic for today, how bright are you, is sort of a double entendre, I guess, without any dirty component to it. But it means we're going to talk a little bit about display brightness and how you choose a display for your particular ambient light conditions. But we're also going to talk about how bright are you, how smart are you, how do you keep up your education and training in this world where we don't have trade shows, where in-person live professional development is not at all common, if it's available at all? What do you do to stay up to date, to stay smart on all the latest trends and technologies and products in Pro AV? SDVoE Live is here to help with that. What Chris is doing with the Lost Art of AV is as well. So we thought we'd get together and talk about that. Don't forget, after the half-hour program, we have an after show where you will be invited to ask questions to me, to my co-host Matt Dodd, to Chris himself. We'll all be here. Get your questions in the chat right below my feet if you're logged into the SDVoE Academy, or get us at hashtag SDVoE Live on Twitter if that's how you're consuming this stream today. By the way, we are broadcasting live on Twitter for the very first time today. So those of you watching us there, be sure and tweet us at hashtag SDVoE Live to let you know we're out there. So without further ado, let's get into today's content. I'm going to toss it over to Matt, who's going to come to you after a short quiz question and introduce today's educational segment.
Hi everybody, it's me again, Matt Dodd, your favourite English guy. Just going to echo really what Justin just said. Very much looking forward to meeting Chris. We work in similar fields with education, and that's really the feel of the show today. And so I'm really looking forward to having a good old chinwag with Chris, just to find out from his perspective how education is going for him, and how these great little sound bites that he's putting across a plethora of social media channels are being received, because naturally with the COVID and the lockdown across the board, it's really important that we get this information out to you in the most engaging way we can. So to kick things off here, rather than show one of our own Academy videos, we're going to show one of Chris's videos from Starin. So enjoy, and we'll catch you very shortly.
Every project that utilizes a display or projection system requires some basic design considerations to guarantee a good customer experience. This is true in huddle spaces or small conference rooms, as well as large venues like a lecture hall or auditorium. Now, it cannot be overstated how important it is to understand the lighting conditions in the space. Are there windows that allow sunlight to stream in the room? Is there bright overhead lighting? What is the overall brightness in the space? Well, from there it can be determined whether these lighting conditions are present at the location of the display's viewing surface. Now, once you know this information, it's easy to determine the ideal technology to recommend for the space. Now, I'll show you how. Ambient light is the enemy of any display because it dramatically reduces the perceived contrast between lights and darks. This makes it harder to see details of any kind. So as the ambient lighting grows brighter, the brightness of the display must be increased accordingly. Now I'll show you how easy it is to determine the required brightness of any display product that you might select. You can use an app on your smartphone to measure the ambient light at the display screen location. This should give you a value in lux. You multiply the lux value by the number of square meters in the screen. Just multiply the screen width by the height and divide by 10.764, then multiply by the lux reading. Multiply this number by 3. This is the lowest lumens value that would be acceptable for a projector on a screen with a gain of 1. Assuming, of course, no ambient light will be striking the projection screen. So let's look at an example. Now I've measured the light at the screen location at 300 lux. My 110-inch screen is 4.5 feet by 8 feet. So I multiply the width by the height to get 36 and divide by 10.764 to get the screen area in square meters, which comes out to 3.34. Now I multiply that area by the lux reading of 300 and get 1002. I then multiply 1002 by 3 to get the projector that I need, which roughly is a 3000 lumens projector. Now, if direct light from the windows or the fixtures are going to hit the screen, cross projection off of your list. Next, we'll calculate the required value for an LCD or an LED display. Now you take the lux value from your light meter app and divide by pi, which is 3.1416, to get the value in nits. Now this is the lowest acceptable brightness output from an LCD or LED display that you might select for this space. To check your calculations to see how well they work in a given space, here's an easy way to measure how a viewer will perceive the display. Now make sure that all the lighting is on and the window shades are open, just as the worst case scenario might be for the room. Then place a blank sheet of bright white paper on the table at the center of the viewing area. Now, using your smartphone app, measure the ambient light reading that's reflecting off of that paper. Divide the number by pi and multiply the results by 3. Now, this is the brightness value that your recommended display should provide. Now, let's do an exercise to show you how this is done for an LCD display. I've placed my bright white cardstock on the table. My reflected light measurement is 400 lux. So I'll divide 400 by pi, or 3.1416, which gives me 127 nits. Then I multiply this number by 3 to get 381 nits. Now what this tells me is that I need a display that is around 381 nits. So this should help you better understand how to determine the proper display brightness for any space.
Hello.
Well, Matt.
Hello. Hello.
How have you been? Are you well?
Yes, indeed. Very well. Thank you very much. Yeah. A bit of a migraine.
Poor Matt was
today.
Poor Matt was not feeling well yesterday and had to miss rehearsal, but professional that he is, he's right here standing up ready to go. However, what Matt does not know, and would have had he been here with us yesterday, is that Chris is going to be our very first guest with an active case of COVID-19. So if you want to talk about somebody standing up and keeping his commitments and being here for us anyway, a huge thanks to Chris. And I don't want to make light of the situation. He's had a very difficult week.
Wow.
But a big thanks to Chris for showing up
him.
anyway. Because honestly, I was ready to go without a guest when I heard it. Say, you know what, go sleep. We'll be okay. But he's had some treatments. He's feeling good.
I'm sorry to hear that.
He's going to do great today.
But yeah, good for him. Good for him. What a shame, poor Chris. But thank you for coming in. Hey, let's press on with the news. And apologies, Jake, if I'd talk over the top of you a little bit. I do have an audio issue here over in this side of the building because, of course, we're in the same building as everyone knows. Sure. But my earpiece is playing up a little bit, so I'm
very echoey on his side of the building.
So, news item number one, a very interesting piece of news about an Ohio school. What's your take on this?
I thought it's great to see the things that are happening now as we hybridize everything. But but I was really interested as I saw some of the pictures in this article and some of the other hybrid education case studies I was looking at, the way that we're using AV technology to give the instructor the right experience, right? So that they see, of course, the students who are in the classroom, but also can see and directly interact with the students that are outside of the classroom as though they were there, right? It's much more than just, the experience we've all had this year with, a Zoom screen on our desk here, but, large format screens against the wall to sort of give the appearance of those students being there. And for me, it was interesting to think about, because I frankly hadn't before. I thought a lot about how the students are affected by hybrid learning, but to think about the perspective given to the instructor with the AV technology, it made for some interesting reading.
Yeah, sure. I follow on from that, obviously, living and breathing the education world and online now. Very, very interested to hear stories like this. And whilst there's been tech in school for quite some time for kids to embrace, and kids naturally just pick out their laptop now or their iPad on their desks when they go to school. And back in my day, which wasn't that long ago, people, if you did that, you'd be sent to the headmaster's office for not paying attention. But the new tech coming in, and obviously the sort of tech that we work with here at the studios, it's great to see it being embraced and being utilised. And this is something that will continue long after COVID. This is almost, this is the future. This is what happens. I've this is for a longer debate, but I've always had this thing that my kids are only little. They learn so much from just the correct content being displayed on a screen in front of them. Naturally, we try to stop that happening too much, but they learn a lot from that content, and I think this is a really interesting move forward to meet the demands for flexibility on sending children to school. Let's move on to the next news topic, which is. Again, you've picked a couple of beauties here. How to expand your network in AV. This is something that for me, this just smacks all of the skills. Having a background as I have in residential AV before I marched head held high, holding your hand into Pro AV. This was something. The Resi AV world was really hard to get into because you had to have many hats. Those of you watching that have had a foray in Resi, you've got to be confident to sit there with your customer and it smiles and be the guy who knows it all. One minute you're a lighting guy and a lighting design guy, then you're a lighting engineer, and then you're a control systems guy, then you're a building management systems guy, then you've got to know about RF, and then you've got to know about networking. And more importantly, you've got to have the confidence and capacity to be able to pull all that together and make it sound like a system that's dead easy to use. And that's a hard thing to do, let alone try and get into. What was your take from it?
To sort of, there's a segue here to solve the gap that you're talking about. How does someone, become a jack of all trades that's sort of necessary in so many AV roles? Maybe a better way to do that is to not be an expert in everything, but have friends who are, right? And the ways to learn about who those people are and what they're up to are described in this article, right? It's following the industry blogs, it's participating in social media. And that's an interesting topic we'll chat about with Chris, who's very deep into that, sharing information and contacts through social media. We hope that programs like this are a way for people to connect with each other in the chat below, and connect with us and with what's going on, as the forefront of technology moves. But also and here it is, today's topic, the broader world of staying educated and staying trained and staying up to date, whether that is in person or whether that is online. That's a place not only to take in the direct knowledge of what the instructor is teaching you, but also to meet that instructor, to meet the other students in the class, to learn, who your friends can be and what they can do so that we can all help each other, right? I think education brings people together for that kind of networking.
Yeah, when we used to go to trade shows, remember those? We'll go back to trade shows, but you've got rooms full of people who are there and hungry to learn. But a lot of that learning takes place not just within the room, but takes place afterwards. When there's networking happening, there are people who are getting together and just learning from you might be talking to a guy who spent the last 25 years getting it wrong to make sure he gets it right. And when we do go back, those of you that are watching that know somebody or even yourself are keen to sort of work out how best to network and start the successful progress within AV. The trade show and the networking element of a trade show is by far and away a powerful place to be, because you can learn so many things from so many people. You learn how not to do stuff as well as how to do stuff. So we've got our guest coming up very shortly. He's coming up now. So this is Chris Neto. I think we should just bring him in. What do you think, Justin?
Let's do it. Let's do it.
Okay.
Come on, Chris.
Come on in, Chris. Hello there.
Welcome aboard.
Thank you for having me.
Good, good. Well,
Chris,
thank you once again for being here. Is that your new office chair? Is that what I see behind you?
This is my new office chair. It was supposed to be here.
You did it.
It was
Congratulations.
A month late, but I'm getting it sooner and put it together and have it ready for today. So at least my back is comfortable today.
Good.
And our viewers don't have to see the ratty old chair you were sitting in.
Thank you.
You've been to the walls, Chris. I understand. I mean, you're sitting here now with COVID. I mean, what a stalwart you are.
Yeah, that's it's to prove my grit and my mental toughness. That's what I want. That's
Well
all.
done,
That's
sir.
the only reason why I'm here. And I heard you were out sick yesterday, so I wanted to show you up at least once.
Yeah, well,
That's
here's
at
the
least
thing.
what
I was out sick. I didn't have COVID, and I was out sick. Let's just go to show how weak I am. Dreadful, dreadful. So I take my hat off to you, sir.
Thank you.
Um,
Well, I'm happy to be here.
I do apologise if I talk over Chris. As you know, I've got a little bit of an audio problem. It's me coming out with all these excuses, people. It's just Matt Dodd, the excuse
Oh,
guy.
it's
Ill one
fine.
day and
It's
bad audio
fine.
the next. What's going
Let's dive into it. Chris, the lost art of AV. How did you get there? Why is it lost, or is it lost yet? What inspired you and Craig to start this video series?
Well, it was. It's not that the art of AV is lost. It's just that we're moving into an IP world and an IT world, and every day there's a discussion online about AV versus IT, and you know what? There are still purists in the world who believe in acoustics, who believe in lighting, who believe in signal path that is not around ones and zeros. People that love the analog vibe and will still go towards a vinyl record over a CD or an MP3. But what I think AV has kind of progressed as it moved towards the IT industry and becoming more enveloped within the IT world. I didn't want to lose the sense of what we bring as AV people to a specific job. Not many IT people can tell you the right size monitor for your desk. Not many people can tell you the right size display for a conference room. And I think that's an art, and I think it's an art that AV does. We do well with sound. We don't just throw out-of-the-box solutions typically at things. We analyze. There's a science to AV. It's not just an art form. And I think that's part of the reason what inspired the lost art of AV is getting back to its roots and working with Clay, who is a former sound guy in the movies. He really has a passion for audio, so we kind of went down an audio path and kind of discovered that there is a need for these little bit of, if you want to call it romanticizing what we do in the AV world.
That's brilliant. What about the take-up? Because we saw a short a piece of video that you made before we just played one out, and what I liked about it was the fact that we've got lots of science quite quickly, but it takes in the space of 5 minutes. You've got these two little exercises which help somebody walk away and think, wow, okay, it's been simplified for me how I can quickly check the brightness requirement of a projector or a screen for a display or a wall display. So I can imagine you've had quite a lot of take up on this, Chris.
Yeah, it actually, the inspiration behind a lot of these videos and the rules behind them are very simple. When we created these videos and started the genesis of it, they needed to be short, they needed to be sweet. We live in a YouTube world. I don't want to drag on, principles. For that, you can go to a class to do that. And then what we find is that a lot of classes are very technical, very sciencey. Everybody wants to prove that one's smarter than the next. So we wanted to just kind of break it down to a real world experience. And between myself and Clay, we've both been out there. We've both been estimators. We've both been engineers. He has a CTSD. I have my CTS. But more importantly, we work at Starin with a lot of qualified people that have their CTS and CTSD. And one person in particular, somebody by a friend of mine who I'm very close with, is Melissa Dillman. Melissa Dillman is a former Educator of the Year from AVIXA and a former Woman of the Year from AVIXA as well. She was one of the best instructors I ever had in terms of somebody who can take the most complicated subject and dumb it down so that I can even understand that. And it doesn't mean that I am not as smart as the next person, but sometimes you just got to take those very difficult big words that people love to throw around and break it down into something that's easily digestible. So taking that what she did and made her successful as a trainer, we kind of worked that into our video style, in that we wanted to give real world experience and kind of these quick exercises and practical exercises, show the phone, show the lux, show the calculations, and show how easy it can be without overcomplicating it.
It's something that I completely, I couldn't agree more with everything you said. As somebody who's been in the world of education for 25 years, I qualified in education, so I qualified in how the brain learns and how we process new information, and what you're saying is absolutely ringing true. Short pieces of information through the stimuli of audio, video, and tactile learners, giving somebody a 30-minute piece online to do with a lot of technical content. JK, you're just going to lose them within the first 10-15 minutes, and you know this. So every course that we have up on the SDVoE Academy is a 10 to 15-minute course maximum, with lots of time for that consolidation, lots of time for that refresh. So it's great to hear that, as two people who've never met, that we're in the same sort of field. We're singing off the same hymn sheet, which is great news. Good news, Justin.
I'm curious to know, Matt. You guys have both talked about the value of short, of specific, of practical education here. Is there a fundamental advantage in that way to what you guys are doing, to what we're doing here in the Academy, as opposed to in-person training, where I expect to be in a room for 3 hours or 6 hours? I mean, of course, they both have their value, but I'm asking, is there something fundamental about the short online form that's just different and has its own benefits that aren't available in a classroom?
Yeah, so I'll take that very quickly and I'll hand it to you, Chris. For me, the one thing that you're absolutely missing with online learning is the ability to interact. And as a trainer, as a seasoned trainer, the first thing you want to do is be able to interact. You're dealing with a bunch of people, 8 to 10 people with different skill sets. It's not like a classroom full of children where they've still got different skill sets, but there's a much finer difference between them all. With adults, you could have a professor of electronics and somebody who's just decided he's not going to lay bricks anymore, he's going to do this. So you can interact with people and you're prepared for that. So you can take longer with certain people. You can go and put lots more exercises in there, and you can do a lot more practical hands-on, which is often quite difficult to do with online. So the interactive piece is difficult to get over, and we win that audience a little bit more with animation. Chris, what's your thought on that?
Well, I mean, you guys are you are seasoned trainer, seasoned educator, so it's a little different, right? The toughest thing that I've learned watching teachers teach, including my own children's teachers, is that the teachers are looking for the reaction. You feed off of that, right? You state a fact and you wait to see a nod. And when every kid in the classroom is cameras off, you're not getting that. You're not feeding off. You're not seeing if it's reading. I remember being in classes, in college and in high school and all. And if the teacher looked at us and we had that, deer in the headlights look, they would repeat again.
Time to slow
down. Here it is again. Uh-huh. Here's the French Revolution one more time for you that don't understand it. You're reading that off of the students. What we were trying to do with our videos is not necessarily be the educators. That is always going to be there. But what we wanted was really the supplemental. So you learned about Lux today in class, but you don't have the 100%. Go to this. 90% of what we do now on Starin's videos are feedback that I get back from CTS study groups that are out there learning, and people that are studying these classes. And some people just make general information, right? Sure. There's nothing on the CTS about IPX rating, right, which is waterproofing. And we did a subject on it. It wasn't super the most needed thing, and it may not appear on a CTS exam, but people want a clarification as opposed to what an IP rating was versus IPX rating and how that applies to AV. that's like a little example of how, you know, we basically are working and engaging. That is where we're using the social networks and dropping into the LinkedIn networks and putting this out there as AV 101 and AV basics kind of thing. And the response that I've been getting from seasoned professionals is it's great that we're actually touching on some of the of the foundational things that are absolutely necessary.
Brilliant.
And the fact that we're getting responses back from people, whether that's through our YouTube channel or through Twitter or through DMs across all the different channels, we're building a library and this like add-ons for people that are out there kind of moving or transitioning in their career right now, maybe from a project manager to engineer, or maybe from a junior level technician to senior technician. That's what we're trying to target.
Okay, well, Chris, we're going to revisit this. We're going to talk a bit more about this in the after show, so stick around for that, please do. But for now, we're just going to head to a quick quiz question, see how you get on with this one. What a lovely guy. And it's always nice to know that people like him and I, even though we've never met, and you'd think we had, you know, we both came along with exactly the same reason for why we're doing things. So I'm delighted. Good choice.
Well, thank you. Thank you. He's a good guest. Let's push the quiz questions to the after show, because the last one was a little tricky. And those of you who paid attention, I think 3 episodes ago, that one stumped me. I now can tell you the answer. And I will in the after show. I hope that those of you out there on Twitter have enjoyed and had a good experience in our first live stream there. Tell us how it went at hashtag SDVoE Live, and put your questions for us, for Chris, and hashtag SDVoE Live, as well as the chat box below if you're logged into SDVoE Academy. Those of you watching this on demand and not live, the after show is available on demand, but only in the SDVoE Academy. So head over to sdvoe.org/live, sign yourself up for a free account, and you can follow the after show that followed after this show was live, which is now for you.
We asked a couple of questions, and I think you've already said this, but we are going to we're going to come back to these in the after show. Correct, JK? We're not going to try them now.
That's right.
We've got some interesting answers.
And we're short on time.
Yes, we are. We are
2 weeks
indeed
from now
very
for
short
episode
on time.
9.
Episode 9.
HOW,
yeah,
how
interesting
special
one.
is that? We'll be talking with Matt Scott about design for House of Worship. So tune in for that, and meet us on Twitter at hashtag SDVoE Live in the meantime. Matt?
Indeed.
I think that's it for me. Is that it for you?
That's it from me. So we'll see you in the after show. Stay right where you are.
Bye, guys.